So the Sacred Stones banners finally come out, and personally I'm pretty happy with who we got and how exactly good these new heroes are. In this video I'll be going over each of their kits as well as their base stats, which I believe have been determined by now. So first up is Amelia, who is our first new armor unit from a banner. I think the only other armor unit that's been added to the game since launch has been Zephiel, so another armor is very welcomed. I personally think her art is very cool. She has some very nice throwbacks to Sacred Stones in that the general class was able to throw their axes via a chain, which is completely crazy and unrealistic, but was amazing in the games. Amelia is a green axe armor unit, and in Sacred Stones, she was one of the 3 trainees you could get in the game. These are comparable to the villager class, such as Donald, and in Fire Emblem Heroes, they like to give these types of heroes higher base stats, kind of as a throwback to the game mechanics, where those heroes are pretty weak in the early game, but grow up to be very strong in the late game if you give them the needed experience. So Amelia has some very high stats, the highest stats in the game, just because she is an armor unit who already have the highest stats atop the trainee slash villager buff, and she has the highest base stat total out of everyone in the game, no questions asked. She has 47 HP, 34 attack, 34 speed, 35 defense, and 23 res, which isn't bad in itself. So together, this is a crazy stat total. 34 speed on an armor unit is absolutely insane and shouldn't be taken lightly. Definitely can be comparable to Hector and Sheena in that she has almost 9 to 10 speed higher than both of them. It's actually insane, and she'll actually be able to prevent a lot of doubles with 34 speed and maybe another buff on top of that. So looking at Amelia's kit, she comes with the Slaying Axe Plus, which is a straight up upgrade to the Killer Axe, so already better than Sheena in that category. She also comes with Sacred Cow and Earth Boost, so you can see that she kind of has a very defensive kit covering for ranged attacks as well as melee physical attacks. But her most interesting skill is definitely Armor March 3. This is the first time we've seen this skill, and it's definitely made for Armor Emblem teams, in that if you have an armor ally next to you on the next turn, I believe both Amelia as well as any armor allies who are standing next to her will be able to get 2 movement for the next turn, which is kind of insane. And considering someone like Amelia who has really high base stats, 2 movement is absolutely crucial for armor teams. Like, that's crazy. Mobility is pretty important in this game. One of the weaknesses of Armor Emblem is the lack of mobility, so Armor March is actually I think is pretty good. You will be giving up a possible spur or hone slash fortify buff for armor teams, but I think the 2 movement might be worth it. You probably will need to build around using it effectively, so definitely someone like a Brave Lance FE will be absolutely a monster with 2 movement, and I think it's definitely the most interesting part of her kit. Overall, I think Amelia is very good as a new armor unit. Definitely has some competing like stats and kits compared to like Hector or Sheena, who is our other 2 green armor axe units. I think she's definitely good to pull, and if you definitely want to make an armor team, I would try to get her. Armor March may not replace like another spur or hone slash fortify buff, but it possibly could be good. So next up is Seth, who has been a very highly anticipated unit to come from Sacred Stones. He is basically the second person you get in the game, and he's insanely OP throughout the entire game for a Jagan unit. I do like his attack art, and that's pretty much all I like about him, because his stats and his kit definitely have more to be desired. So Seth is a Red Sword Cavalier unit, and he comes with 37 HP, 32 attack, 31 speed, 32 defense, and 22 res. And just looking at his stats, he definitely is in the jack of all trades category where he doesn't really excel in one spot. He has good attack and speed, like that's actually not that bad. However, there are better options if you want to go full offensive. And on the defensive side, 32 defense is actually alright. But when you have a free red sword cavalier such as Xander, who completely outclasses him in defensive tanking, it's kind of unfortunate for Seth. So Seth's base kit comes with a Ruby Sword Plus, which is not exactly ideal for him, I would say. Like, I don't think it adds anything to his kit, especially with his stats, and if I was going to use Seth, I would definitely exchange that even for something like a basic Silver Sword. Swap is alright. I think it's definitely a callback to him saving a certain princess from harm. And rounding out his kit is Fortress Defense 3 and Seal Attack / Defense 2. I don't know how I feel about both of those, since I don't think giving him 5 defense in exchange for -3 attack is very good. He doesn't have like someone like Xander, who is a free red sword cavalier, comes with a legendary 16 might distant counter sword, and he also has higher defense than Seth already, so like he gets completely outclassed by Xander in those categories. And the Seal Attack / Defense 2 implies that you want to have more than one round of combat. And the current state of the game, that's not exactly the greatest battle plan. Most oftentimes you want to either be taking 0 damage from the enemy or one-shotting them in one round of combat. It is definitely like, I don't think his kit works together with his stats in any ways, and I'm pretty sure just Seth in general just got kind of screwed. Horse emblem buffs can definitely remedy this, but I think he's gonna need heavy skill investment if you want to be using him at any sort of like high tier level. Next up we have Ennis, who is the Prince of Frelia and is basically Ephraim's rival in Sacred Stones. They both like to compete against each other. In Fire Emblem Heroes, I definitely like his voice actor, definitely cool. And I think his art is actually pretty good too. His damage art looks really cool actually. So Ennis actually has a very good mage killing kit, and I really want him for that, since I currently only have a neutral Niles, and I think Ennis has a higher cap he can definitely go for it thanks to his legendary weapon. But let's look at his base stats first. He comes with 35 HP, 33 attack, 34 speed, 14 defense, and 31 resistance. So what stands out is that 33 attack and 34 speed is actually the second best offensive archer stats in the game currently, since Bride Cordelia is first and currently not available until probably next year. Ennis is going to be the best you can get regarding offensive archers if you want to give him something like a Brave Bow build. And what I think you should be using him more for is definitely some kind of mage counter, since he has 31 res and 34 speed, which is very crucial since most mages are very speedy, so you want to be avoiding double attacks as much as possible. So everything in Ennis's base kit is basically made for killing mages. His legendary weapon Nidhogg is gonna be effective against flyers, as well as having an Owl Tome effect. If you're not familiar with the Owl Tomes, essentially for every ally you have next to Ennis, when he starts combat, he'll get +2 attack, speed, defense, and res. And this can stack, so if you have 3 allies next to him, that's +6 total for all those stats, which is pretty cool, and definitely works for a baiting sort of playstyle where you want to place as many allies next to Ennis and allow him to get attacked by a mage. Iceberg is definitely a good special for Ennis since he has high res, and you definitely do not need a ridiculous amount of damage to kill mages. So Iceberg's going to be about 15 damage with his base 31 res. However, his next skill, Fortress Resistance 3, which is a new skill, grants 5 resistance in exchange for -3 attack. I think this is fantastic on Ennis, even though I said Fortress Defense was not good on Seth. Ennis comes with a legendary weapon, which sort of offsets the -3 attack he would get from the Fortress Resistance skill. Also, I think you should be activating Iceberg whenever you're trying to kill these mages, and -3 attack is not going to make a difference against mages. They're just super squishy, and 2 attacks from Ennis should be enough to take out most of them. Last, he comes with Cancel Affinity 3, which was recently introduced, and this is basically made for handling Triangle Adept Raven Tome users. It's not extremely popular outside of Male Robin, I'm sure you've seen it, but it is made for that. One important thing to note is that Cancel Affinity does absolutely nothing to Raven Tomes if they do not have Triangle Adept equipped, so you gotta keep that in mind. It could probably be replaced. It's still a very cool skill to have on him regardless. So finally we have Tana, who is Ennis' sister and also friends to Erica and Ephraim. I think her special attack art is actually very nice. I like the feathers since she's a Pegasus flyer. And she definitely has a very interesting kit with a very cool weapon. Tana's base stats include 36 HP, 34 attack, 36 speed, 25 defense, and 25 resistance. For comparison, what most people consider as the best offensive flyer in Cordelia, in that she has 35 attack and 35 speed, so you can see that Tana is actually pretty good in that category offensively. However, what definitely stands out is her legendary weapon, and it definitely isn't that bad with her current stats. Tana's legendary weapon, Vidofnir, I think it's pronounced, is a very cool weapon in that when she's attacked by sword, axes, or lances, she receives defense plus 7 during combat. And if you didn't know, this is basically close defense A skill, but even better. And I believe it does stack if you could have got your hands on a Summer Tiki. Hopefully if close defense comes back on a unit that is permanently available from summoning, I would definitely consider giving her this, in that she'll get plus 7, plus 6, that's plus 13 defense when she's attacked by a melee unit. That's pretty crazy. And 25 defense isn't actually that bad. And you add 13 to that, that's 38 defense, which is kind of insane. And I think it definitely opens up some kind of defensive playstyle for Tana. Most Pegasus Knights are pretty squishy, so having a skill like that is actually kind of interesting. Definitely sets her apart. Her special is going to be Moonbow, which nothing special, pretty common special that everyone has. Her A skill is actually pretty good, I think. So if plus 7 defense wasn't enough for you, an addition of plus 2 defense and plus 2 speed, by itself, I think plus speed, or this speed slash defense 2 is actually really strong. If there's a resistance version, that's even better, since speed is very important in defensive, being able to tank defensively. And I think if you pull another Tana, then it's definitely like a skill that you could think of skill inheriting onto someone else if you really need it. Tana's last skill, Guidance 3, is actually a unique new skill that's added, and even adds more mobility to this banner, including Amelia's Armor March. So what Guidance 3 does is, if you have any infantry or armored allies within 2 spaces of Tana, they can basically move next to her, kind of similar to a Wings of Mercy fashion. So why is this good? Well, you can basically give your infantry and armored allies 3 movement possibly. It allows for better positioning overall, since Tana can be on a mountain range, for example, and you can just move completely over it. It's sort of like a reposition, almost, except she doesn't have to use it on an ally, and it works within 2 spaces of her, which is actually pretty big. For armored allies, this is actually very good for getting them into position and into battle. Like, I think you should be using the skill in team compositions that use multiple kinds of unit, or infantry especially. It's definitely strong, and we'll just have to see how people start to use it. So should you roll on this Sacred Stones banner? I would have to say yes. Amelia, Ennis, and Tana each have very good stats and base kits. They all have their uses and pretty cool skills to boot. Seth is the only average one I would say in this banner. He's not exactly great. I wouldn't call him terrible either. But he will need a ton of skill inheritance if you want to use him. Armor March and Guidance are both amazing skills, and I think you should, if you are going to be using an armor emblem team, you will want to have both of these, or you won't want to have armor march. And if you like using armor units in general, you want to have guidance. And both of them just provide more opportunities for you to have crazy mobility options. I think mobility is very important in this game. Another thing to note is that this banner is not limited, so all 4 of these units should be coming back and put into the summoning pool after the banner is over. That's very good. I think Amelia and Seth will be the ones who will be demoted to the 4-star banner, seeing that Ennis and Tana each have legendary weapons, and generally, recently, people who have legendary weapons have not been getting demoted into the 4-star pool, which is good because Amelia has some very good stats. Unfortunately, Seth, I guess if you need fortress defense, you could get that from him, but I don't think he's anything special, honestly. If you do decide to roll, I wish you all the best of luck. I may or may not have already used all my orbs and got absolutely nothing for it, but I hope everyone else has some better luck than I have.